What's up, Pod Pals? It is your buddy Adam. You are listening to Podcasting Business School. This is the show where I teach podcasters how to love their podcast like a hobby and build it like a business. We are doing a podcast audit session here today with a brand new friend, Naomi Rotenberg from the It's Training Cats and Dogs podcast. I love that name, and I'm excited to dive in. So, Naomi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so you got to tell us, like, who's your ideal listener for It's Training Cats and Dogs? I'm very interested in this.
The ideal listener is someone who has cats and dogs already, or who is thinking about adding another species to their household. So if they have a dog, they're thinking about getting a cat, or vice versa. And they are not sure how to make sure that they get along. So either they're already having issues, or they are really good pet owners and are anticipating potential issues. That's who I want to be listening, so they can get the tips that might be relevant to them. And also, I do a lot of guest interviews with other trainers who have both cats and dogs. And so it's really good to have people who are interested in kind of like the Schadenfreude aspect of, like, even trainers' animals have issues, and like how we've navigated that as professionals, because that's really interesting to a lot of people too. Training nerds is also my ideal listener.
Nice. Okay. So I love a good niche. You've got one. It's well branded. I think that the title really attracts the right person that you're looking for. So well done. Now with the audit, we usually focus on growth. We can talk about monetization. We can talk about audience engagement. Any of those perking your ears up? Any particular place that you'd like to start the conversation today?
I definitely want the podcast to lead into my programs and services, in addition to being a really important resource for people just listening. But it's definitely one of the lead magnets that I'm most interested in, because it's the easiest for me to produce. I love doing it, and it lends itself well for creating blog posts and all of that fun stuff. So making sure that it services my monetization and growth.
Yeah. So, like, I call it building a community to client bridge. Like, we want to build community through your show, build these super fans. They're totally into It's Training Cats and Dogs. They've got the t-shirt, they've got the tattoo. They're like, I've listened to every episode. I can't get enough of this. And then what we're going to do is kind of build some stepping stones that help you build, it's a relationship building funnel. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And, you do some similar things like what we're doing here, where we're inviting listeners and power users and people that are into your stuff. Hey, let's have a conversation. Let's create some content together. Let me show you what I can do for you. And a certain percentage of those will lead to business, or, they join your membership, they do your coaching offer or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to kind of map that out for you, for your brand. Now, I know that you've got, one-on-one coaching, you've got a membership community, and you're working on an online course. Anything else monetization wise that we're looking at right now?
That's enough.
Yeah. Yes. I agree.
It's just me.
I agree.
So
I agree. So with an online course, that is something like you're in a place that I call the post-launch frustration zone. When we map out the podcasting success timeline, you're in zone 2. You've already launched. We're not a podcastinator anymore. You're out there. You got a show. But this is the zone where we need to start laying the foundation. Like I said, building that community to client bridge. So some things that we want to kind of check off or think about are, like, I love the coaching offer. I think that's low hanging fruit. I feel like that's the easiest way to monetize with anything one-on-one, small group, like a challenge, even anything that's like that experience where they're getting a lot of Naomi time. That's going to be the easiest thing to monetize right away. With an online course, like, obviously you can sell that at any time, but you're going to start seeing that really kind of level up when you have numbers for your show. Like when you're hitting, like usually in that 500 to 1,000 downloads per episode, you'll start really noticing some of that stuff, like memberships, online courses, automated stuff that will start to uptick. So right now, the spot that you're in right now, I would lean heavy into how do we connect our listeners into a coaching offer or small group coaching offer. And then I noticed you don't have a lead magnet yet. I would challenge you to try to create some sort of a simple downloadable or a tips video or something where we can create an automated email funnel that leads into your online course. Like that'll be a nice little, having both those things running. That's what I am doing currently. So we can use me as an example right now to kind of paint by the numbers. So my relationship building funnel is people listen to my show, they jump into something like Pod Pals or Podcast Audit, where we get to experience and they get to, plug into the Atom Energy or whatever. And then a certain percentage of those lead to conversations about doing business, whether it's my membership or my coaching or consulting. But I've got my podcast growth scorecard. I almost forgot the name of my own damn thing. The podcast growth scorecard. People will download that and they go into an 18 email funnel where I start to kind of, I have the automated thing, and that can go into some different offers that are more like in the automation, like low hanging fruit zone. So like having both those running at the same time, it can be super effective for where you're at right now. So that's more the long-term play. But I think right now, I would love to challenge you to think about like, how could you do something like what we're doing right here? Like, how could you do some sort of a training Q&A, or like a very situational, you invite your listeners, like you've got 5 cats, you're buying your first dog, bring me the questions. Let's map out your pet transition game plan of how you're going to integrate and make sure nobody kills the other animals. Like something like that. That's money content. Your people will freaking love it. The people that are on the show will love it because they're getting this expertise session with Coach Naomi, and the expert positioning is off the charts. Like it shows exactly what you do that people will pay you for. So how's that sounding, first of all?
It's right up my alley because I don't have to overthink it. And it shows up. I can do a little prep and it shows up to me. And it's wonderful. So I'm definitely on board with this. Once I figured out what your podcast audit was and I sent you, we talked via email a little bit, I was like, this makes total sense for me. And it's definitely something people would want.
Yeah. And I always tell people, like, as you go through I build relationships to build relationships. And like, that's what I like to teach to people. It's not like when I want to hit the end broadcast button, I'm not like pitching Naomi on a bunch of stuff. And you can like you can follow up with Naomi, everybody that's listening or watching, like you can be like, hey, did he actually pitch you something? No, it's like I'm adding value. And if I do that enough times and I show that off on the show, I'm very top of mind when it comes time when people are ready for a coach or are ready to invest. Like I had somebody did a podcast audit with like 6 months ago that just signed up for Download Growth Club this week. I'm like, cool, they were ready. That's I was top of mind because I added that value 6 months ago. It's all good.
Right.
But same thing with you. And now I like your offers. I like the fact that you've got a community offer, you've got the one-on-one stuff, and you've got an automated online course that's very time effective. I like that portfolio. Now we need to start building relationships, keeping you top of mind, showing off your coaching, showing off what it is that you're best at. And like you said, these sessions, like I make notes and stuff like that, but you're in the driver's seat. Like if you have questions, I'm answering those. And if you get to pick the topics that we start off with and things like that. So like I would have your people fill out a little something, but the name is going to be important. Don't call it a coaching session. Don't call it a mentorship session. Don't call it a free training session. It needs to, like, podcast audit brings a different level of seriousness to it, and it's descriptive. So like I love transition in there, your pet transition session, or like you can have a like the pet transition strategy session or something like that, or the pet transition audit, the multiple pet, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm talking about? Like, your keywords better than I do, but I want it to be descriptive of what it does, but also kind of like, oh, that's interesting. Like when people hear a podcast audit, they're like, I know what a tax audit is. And I would love to have somebody that's experienced in the podcasting space kind of do that with my show. Let's find out what this is about. So any ideas naming wise that are popping into your head right now?
I do have a strategy session already as like a paid strategy session that I'm looking to, it's a lot of work for me. It's a lot of time because I do a really, really long thing. And I'm wondering, this could potentially be kind of a mini version that could replace that. And strategy session works well for people because they're really looking for the blueprint, rather than just like, they know there's a lot of noise out there, right? But like they want, tell me the steps. So that strategy I think tends to work for them. But I haven't done like did this name, resonate with you kind of question. So strategy session, maybe because I'm already using it and people are buying it. But yeah, obviously like a dog cat oriented.
I was thinking, honestly, the first thing that came to my mind was the pet integration strategy session, but that spells PISS, and I don't know if you want to go there or not.
Love it.
Oh goodness, that is dog and cat theme though. That happens. It happens with dogs.
Bodily functions are a thing in my job. Yes, very much.
Oh goodness. Okay, so
I do love an acronym, so I'll definitely think on that.
Be careful. But I think you start doing those, and these can be 15 minutes long. I think the sweet spot for this type of what we're doing here is 15 to 30 minutes. I've done in my health podcasting days, I did a 15-minute session. With the business stuff, I like to dive in a little bit. So you're kind of in that lifestyle and training space. So it could be whatever you want, but I would really we focus on engagement, growth, and monetization. So pick your 1 to 3 lanes that you want to operate in so you can keep your people focused and go, these are the lanes that we're going to operate in. This is what we can talk about. Have them fill out a little bit of information. That helps you overserve them. Like once we're done, you'll see I'm sending you this whole big Google sheet that I made notes, and I've got episode recommendations based off of what you filled out for me and like all this stuff. So that's me over delivering. So watch what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And every step of the way go, how do I take that template and apply it to what I want to do and just use it as a blueprint, and it'll work. So
I will steal.
Yes, steal away. So I think that's going to be a really effective way to keep your coaching top of mind. I think that offer will do really well for you. So that's something that you're actively doing right now. Like you've got the one-on-one coaching going, right?
Yeah. I mean, part of the issue is that I am me. And I need to fill out this, not just do one-on-one coaching. So I only have a limited amount of time. That's the issue that everyone has, right?
Now, some things to think about. Most entrepreneurs and most podcasters that I run across do not charge enough for their one-on-one services. So that's something to think about is and I'm not going to make you shout out what you charge or anything like that, but just think about that. You and I can even talk about it offline if you want, but something like a VIP day in your space, you're in the transformation space, you're in a transition, you can help people immediately. So an idea is a VIP day. Imagine that you book, a 4-hour block on Fridays, and people can have that for $2,000. All right. And so every Friday you make $2,000 for a 4-hour, but you get one client that they get you for 4 hours, and you take them from point A to point D in your process. So instead of having a coaching package that's 4 sessions that are an hour each, you just go all straight through. And I do these with podcasters, and I can get a lot more done in 1 4-hour session versus 4 1-hour sessions because we're not interrupted. There's no start, stop. It's just go. And it's super time efficient. And you when I coach people on how to do this, we're charging minimum $2,000 for these types of offers because of the end result and the impact. So maybe it's just like a disaster pet scenario. And you know how pet owners are. It's like kids, and people will invest whatever it takes to get the problem solved. If they feel like they love this dog, but it's not getting along with the other animals, and they're afraid one of them's going to kill the other one or something. They're yeah, I'll invest whatever. Maybe it's not $2,000. Maybe you feel more comfortable with whatever, something different. But I would encourage you to take whatever you're charging per hour now and go, I'm going to add at least 50% on top of that for this 4-hour, run the numbers and see what happens. And I think something like that, I would at least explore it. That way you can make more money per hour of your time, because you deserve that, because you're in a space that's, like I said, it's transformational and it's high impact. So that's something to think about. But you're spot on with your, like, leveraging your course, leveraging your membership and things like that. And those will become even more effective as we grow the show.
Yeah, the one thing that's interesting about the pet space, well, there's two things. One is that yes, it's transformational, and yes, it's like, but it's not a business, and so it's like it right in the middle of B2B and B2C, right? Like people will pay more than like a hobby because it's their life and their family members, but it's not the, you know, all the pricing recommendations that are like all on the blog posts and the internet, in the interwebs, are like, no one will pay that amount for their stuff. And also the problem is that behavior of another being is unpredictable in terms of time, right? Like, so you, for a business, you could say, okay, I'm going to give you 4 hours and we can get blank amount of planning done, right? But there's only so much information that I can give to somebody up front, and then they have to do it.
Go and apply. That makes sense. That does make sense. Yeah.
And so I have toyed around with these kinds of things, and I'm not by any stretch of the imagination done with the tinkering in my brain. But yeah, I'm trying to think of ways to make that work, but keeping those aspects of this particular space in mind, because it is.
That's very interesting. That's a good point. Like animals, as we know, are unpredictable, and maybe so to me, the challenge would be like, how long of a session could we pull off here that makes sense? And maybe where a lot of it is just putting like a routine building game plan together with the owner, or something like that. I don't know. Like you said, that's the way I'll challenge you to think in those terms, and let's see what you come up with. Okay. Lead magnet. I think, like, obviously that's something that I want to challenge you to look at. I want two different styles of lead magnets. One is the experience, so the coaching style episode, the strategy session. That's a lead magnet. Like your price of admission today was your email address. You know, now you're on my list, and I'm gonna, you know, nurture our relationship via my newsletter on Wednesdays and things like that. So that's one way to build your list with super fans, but also some sort of like quick downloadable, quick, you know, automated thing. I would love to see you create something like that we can build an email funnel out of. So any thoughts on something that you think would work in your space? Any ideas on a quick experience, quick downloadable, quick video series, anything like that?
Yes, no. Yeah, this is what keeps me up at night. So a lot of what I struggle with here is like, at what point in the journey do I kind of attack with a lead magnet, right? So like, I think about quizzes of like diagnostics.
That's what I'm thinking.
And I like that idea, but here's the thing about pets also, which is really interesting, is that, you know, like everyone says, you know, these personality quizzes, the impetus is like, you want to know about yourself. But is the quiz about you, the human, or is it about your animals? Do people want to know about their animals as much as they want to know about themselves? And if it's not about the animals, if it really is about them, like, I have no I don't know how to bridge those two things into one, because obviously, like, it's not just about the humans, it's about both. So I'm all for ideas, because I definitely think a quiz is the way to go. Quick, easy, to the point, and will help people learn a small thing. But it will also help me segment my audience. Because I do have people at various, stages, before they get the animals, when there's already issues, when they're kind of okay, but they want to make things even better. Those are kind of the 3 stages that I have. And so I need to make sure that I know where people are starting from, and give them the right advice from there. But to hit them with like, this is really important. For you and for them.
Well, I love how you mapped out your journey right there, by the way. Like that, I love those 3 zones. Like, that makes sense. And I like the idea of developing some sort of quiz slash assessment slash checklist, any of the above. And it's just like fishing. Like, let's see which fishing, which pond to fish in, the most attractive lure for the fish in that pond. And let's see what happens. But I think, like you said, you could segment your list a little bit and serve those people what's right for them.
Hmm.
I think once you do one, you can use that as a template for the other zones. But like a checklist of, are you ready for your second dog? Like, are you, the checklist to introduce just basically things to like, all right, if I was going to get a cat right now, I've got a 13-year-old Labrador, like what do I need? My second animal preparedness checklist or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like something like that. Simple. Like you can knock that out in a list in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And you just PDF that sucker, and now you've got a downloadable. So I think something like that, it doesn't even have to be like a quiz that's automated and graded and all that stuff. It could just be like a preparedness checklist. Maybe we start there. And that's what people are worried about. Am I ready for this? Is this a bad move? Like, is this, or how do I make sure that I set myself up and the pet to succeed? Like, how do I, what do I do before we get the pet to get my current pet ready? How do we make the introduction happen? How do we facilitate the relationship from there? Like little stuff like that. I'd be all over it.
Yeah. And that's actually really good because the pre-pet stuff is much easier. Like that's, relatively formulaic. And then it's once there are already issues, which is where most people come in anyway, right? Like no one takes the vitamins. They always want the antibiotics, right? So like having that lead magnet for those people who are the small amount of people, honestly, like that's not going to be my main audience for the actual coaching and stuff. Yeah. They want that quick checklist and then they're probably going to be done. Hopefully everything goes well for them. Wonderful, have a wonderful life. And I'm happy to provide that resource. But I think it's that later part where all of my real clients are, where they're like, I know about behavior. I have read everything. I have hired trainers. I have done all of this stuff and we're still struggling. What do I do? And so having that type of lead magnet, I think is going to be where the money is. And where my brain is like, there's so many variables that go into that kind of coaching. And obviously I want to do a good job. So I don't want to just like give them random crap that, is not really valuable.
Okay. So some things to think about. Like the terms that are going through my head are like disaster pet, or like not like the animals, but it's like it's becoming a disaster with this. Like they're not getting along. It's like really not going as expected. Mm-hmm. It's like a reversal, like a disaster pet, a disaster pet reset, or a pet, even if you don't want to like call it a disaster pet, like a pet reset, a pet behavior reset, something like that. Those are the coaching sessions that you need to be doing. Like that's your relationship experience-based lead magnet right there. Like, because if you've targeted them, like I've identified these people. These are the people that I know will be my paying clients. Those are the ones that you're doing your podcast audit style episode with, for sure. Mm-hmm. But the other thing to think about with your downloadable lead magnets, as you create emails off of that, like this is what I did for my podcast growth scorecard, is I identified my 15, what I see as my best episodes that serve all like the 15 top pain points in podcasting. So those are the topics of those 15 emails. And I link to those episodes. I want people binge listening to my content. So podcasters don't do that often enough. They're like, oh, I did an episode, and then it goes out and floats in the ether for the rest of its life. But I'm like, this is my email funnel. I get my best ones. All the pain points that your people are dealing with. I record episodes about those. I'm sure you already have a bunch. And then those are the email topics. And you drive to the episode. Now they're binge listening. I know if I get people to binge listen to my show, that, there's a really good chance we're going to end up doing business because it only makes sense. So like, yeah, this is my guy. I need some help. Same thing with you. Like if they're dealing with a pet and they need a pet reset, you're the person. They got to go to Naomi because you're serving them and you're over serving them. And it's like, it's just frying pan over the head, obvious that they need your help. So think about those things as you're kind of putting all the game plan together. Like right now where you're at, consistency is going to be key. Keep putting out great stuff. Always think about serving pain points. We're going to start building the infrastructure of all this other stuff and just be patient with it because your stuff is good. You're well branded. You're forming an audience. You understand these people. We're going to test. You'll have a few ideas. Like maybe you get this online course out there. Nobody buys it. I've been there, done that. I've got like 70 of those. I've got this, my Kajabi graveyard from my health podcast, I call it. Lots of time building courses, not a lot of sales with those courses. And then I eventually figured it out. So you got to keep trying, be patient with it. Good things are going to happen because your content is good, your branding is good, and you're making an impact. So you just have to not quit and good things will happen, Naomi. And you got the big guy in your corner now. So I can make sure we keep you in line as an official pod pal. So any final thoughts, any final questions that you want to cover?
This is helpful for prioritization. I am a lots of ideas kind of human and need someone to tell me what to just do.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just go checklist order. Figure out those coaching style episodes. Like that's going to be the lowest hanging fruit, biggest impact. That's the book, The One Thing. That's the first domino that we kick over. Then I would look at obviously like growth strategies. I got a bunch of stuff I'm going to send you on that. And just growing the audience, but laying down the framework of your online course, your membership, all the leveraged offers. And with that, your lead magnets and your email list. But coaching, if you only do one thing, we got to get these coaching style episodes going because it's going to really, really make an impact for your show. So,
and would that be the CTA for all of my other podcast episodes?
You got it. Yep. Especially the ones when you put those out, like, and that's why the name is important. Because if you're like, sign up for free coaching, like people are like, but sign up for your free podcast audit episode, come on the show. We're going to go, and it's got the format, blah, blah, blah. It's much easier to market and it makes sense for people. So spend a little time on that. Feel free to kick me an email with some ideas. I'll be glad to give you some feedback on that. But let's say people want to plug into your world. They want to check out your show. Give yourself a shout out. So what's the website, social media, all that. If people want to get into It's Training Cats and Dogs, where do they go?
So I'm mostly on Instagram at Praiseworthy Pets, and DM me because that's where I hang out. My website is praiseworthypets.com. And the podcast is It's Training Cats and Dogs because puns are fun.
Outstanding. Well, Naomi, I appreciate you coming on. And if you all want to do a podcast audit, just like my pod pal Naomi here, head on over to the website, podcastingbusiness.school. Get signed up. It's free and it's amazing. The price of admission, your email. And then you get to be on my Wednesday morning newsletter list. And people, they wake up at 5:45 a.m. just to see what I wrote on Wednesday morning. So a side benefit. All right, pod pals. Oh man, I'm rambling, pod pals. I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Naomi, thanks for coming on the show today. And as always, I'm going to send you all out there wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We'll see you next time.